SOUQ News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching SOUQ News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch SOUQ News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching SOUQ News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, SOUQ News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching SOUQ News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
From Dubai to Lagos, Nigeria, and across the globe, SOUQ News TV is your #1 station focusing on business, economy, and development. With global digital reach, we connect Africa's pulse to the world stage. Welcome to SOUQ News Television, and here we go beyond the headlines. From breaking news, in-depth conversational programs, to market analysis and indices. From policies affecting growth to unique documentaries, from live event coverage to bespoke productions, we deliver content that connects you to the world. At SOUQ News Television, we provide news surrounding business, economy, and development, infomercials and jingles that stand out, short and long-form documentaries crafted to international standards, independent production spaces with full technical support, special coverage for individual and corporate events, a special form of documentaries through our prestige package, Immortals, where we tell your story the way you'd love it, and business support services tailored for small enterprises. SOUQ News TV, powered by FemWatch Limited, also home to the Isle 95.9 FM Lagos and Kasua 99.7 FM Kano, and Emirate News Television Abuja, together forming Africa's trusted media powerhouse. Storytelling, coverage, and connection that matters. SOUQ News TV, your home for business, economy, and development.
Hello Lagos, make we yarn.
Hello, boy, if this POS matter, don't pass your call. Person go swipe, alert no enter. Before you know it, jump.
Wait, wetin really happen?
Maybe you fake alert the warriors.
Okay, so wanna listen to If you dey do POS business, no expose your alert.
Hello, Ogbefi. They don't walk that road where they warriors for our local government for years.
This one sweet me, I no lie you. Because you know what, development where they work, it deserve loudspeaker. Now why we dey here be that? For here, we know the abuse, but they bring solution. My name, it is Ikechukwu Oyemike, aka Ogbefi Ishegwari.
Make we yarn every weekday from 10 a.m. go to 12 o'clock on top the eye 95.9 FM.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty consists of experts and researchers with extensive experience in policy formulation, implementation techniques, and monitoring and evaluation. Our methodology involves talks, individual and group exercises, games, video screenings, and discussion seminar sessions in a cozy atmosphere, making learning enjoyable for our participants. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039-2362. Visit our website at www.adstudycenter.com to learn more about our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Under the bay, under the baobab tree, where shadows bend, the earth whispers tales, the wind.
Human rights are a fundamental and universal entitlement belonging to every person by birth, designed to ensure dignity, freedom, and equality regardless of race, nationality, or status. These inalienable rights form the very core of global governance. International human rights law, founded upon the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR of 1948, establishes the binding obligation of government to protect these freedoms. A key success of this universal framework has been the continuous expansion of its legal body to protect vulnerable groups, including women, children, and persons with disabilities. This universal commitment forms the basis of this year's International Human Rights Day theme, Our Everyday Essentials, which seeks to reaffirm these principles not as abstract concepts, but as the practical foundation people rely on daily. Despite the strength of this legal foundation, challenges in implementation and new complexity result in an uneven global landscape. Millions are facing a critical lack of access to basic needs such as food, water, health, education due to persistent poverty and entrenched inequality. Recent World Bank estimates indicate that approximately 817 million people are currently facing extreme poverty, underscoring the severity of this implementation gap. Rapid advances in technology and digitalization also present novel hurdles concerning surveillance and privacy. Digital access, essential for modern civic participation, saw significant disruption in 2024 with 296 instances of internet service disruption, highlighting the growing threat to digital rights. This challenge is compounded by weak governance and the widespread persistence of armed conflict. These elements undermine fundamental rights by fueling instability and violence, often perpetuated by a lack of accountability for violations. The devastating impact on civilian life remains profound. The United Nations recorded a sharp 72% surge in the loss of civilian life in conflict zones in 2023, coupled with a record high of over 120 million forcibly displaced persons by the end of 2024. The human rights framework faces compounding issues such as climate change, which threatens the rights to life and health through environmental degradation. This has created a hazardous environment for advocates, with environmental human rights defenders facing substantial risk to their personal safety. Navigating a fair and constructive way forward requires key action across key primary fronts. Strengthening social safety nets through the establishment of universal social protection floors is vital to close the inequality gap and safeguard essential economic rights. Enhancing accountability is paramount. the international community must increase support for mechanisms that investigate and prosecute serious violations of humanitarian law, thereby countering impunity and restoring the rule of law. Also, the protection of civic space must be prioritized by regulating the digital sphere to ensure strong privacy rights and by enacting specific legal safeguards that protect activists, journalists, and human rights defenders from attacks, allowing them to perform their essential work without fear. Ultimately, ensuring human rights remain an ongoing commitment that demands measurable action over rhetorical assurance. By reinforcing the UDHR's principles through strategic investment in social protection, accountability, and the safeguarding of civic and digital freedoms, the global community can successfully transition these values from legal ideals into the everyday essentials that defines a life of dignity, freedom, and equality for all people. Praise Matthias, SOUQ News TV.
And the rules hold the reasons why.
Nigerian leather industry has a storied history, particularly in the northern parts of the country where the art of leather farming and crafting has been perfected over centuries. Traditionally, leather was used primarily for functional items like sandals, bags, and saddles, with little emphasis on fashion. However, the narrative has changed drastically in recent years as Nigerian leather has evolved from a utilitarian product to a symbol of luxury and high fashion. Here is a special report by Bayo Olaoye. The turning point for Nigerian leather came as local designers began to recognize its potential beyond traditional uses. They started to experiment with new designs, creating products that appeal to the modern consumer while maintaining the heritage of craftsmanship. The result has been a wave of leather products that are not only functional, but also stylish and desirable on the global stage. One of the key factors driving the revolution is the exceptional quality of Nigerian leather. Known for its durability and unique texture, Nigerian leather, particularly from goats and cattle, has become highly sought after by fashion houses both within and outside Africa. This demand has encouraged local artisans to up their game, focusing on quality control and finishing techniques to meet international standards. Moreover, Nigerian leather products have benefited from the global trend towards sustainable and ethically produced goods. Consumers are increasingly turning away from massively produced items in favor of the handcrafted sustainable alternatives. Nigerian leather made using traditional methods with minimal environmental impact fits perfectly into this narrative. This has opened up markets for Nigerian leather goods, particularly in Europe and North America, where there is a growing appreciation for products with a story and a conscience. The rise of Nigerian leather on the fashion scene is also closely tied to the country's booming creative industry. Fashion designers, many of whom had gained international recognition, are incorporating leather into their collections and innovative ways, from sleek handbags and bespoke shoes to stylish jackets and accessories. The Nigerian leather is becoming a staple in high fashion. This trend is not only boosting the profile of Nigerian fashion, but also creating new opportunities for economic growth. The leather industry, once dominated by small-scale craftsmen, is now attracting significant investment. Entrepreneurs are setting up modern tannery and workshops, creating jobs and fostering skills development in the process. This industrialization of leather products is helping to formalize what was once an informal sector, leading to better working conditions and high incomes for artisans. However, The success of Nigerian leather market did not emerge without challenges. The industry still faces issues related to infrastructure, access to finance, and competition from imported goods. Additionally, there is the need for more investment in technology and innovation to further enhance the quality of leather products and make them more competitive in the global market. Despite these challenges, the future of Nigerian leather products looks bright. There is a growing recognition of the value of locally produced leather goods, both within Nigeria and globally. This is evident in the increasing number of fashion shows and trade fairs dedicated to promoting Nigerian leather products, as well as the rising demand from international buyers. The evolution of Nigerian leather from a utilitarian material to a symbol of high fashion is a testament to the creativity and resilience of the Nigerian artisans. It reflects the broader trend in the global fashion industry towards sustainability and craftsmanship. As the world continues to embrace African fashion, Nigerian leather is poised to become a major player on the international stage, offering a unique blend of tradition, quality, and style. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an exciting new chapter for Nigerian leather.
Hello, Lagos. Make we yarn.
Hello, boy, this POS matter don't pass your call. Person go swipe, alert no enter. Before you know it, jump.
Wait, wetin really happen?
Maybe you fake alert the warriors.
Okay, so wanna listen, If you dey do POS business, no expose your alert.
Hello, Ogbefi. They don't walk Gaba road where they worry for our local government for years.
This one sweet me, I no lie you. Because you know what? Development with the work, it deserve loudspeaker. Now why we dey here be that? For here, we know the abuse, we dey bring solution. My name, it is Ikechukwu Uyemike, aka Ogbefi Ishegwari.
Make we yarn every weekday from 10 a.m. go to 12 o'clock on Top the Eye 95.9 FM.
From Dubai to Lagos, Nigeria, and across the globe, SOUQ News TV is your #1 station focusing on business, economy, and development. With global digital reach, we connect Africa's pulse to the world stage. Welcome to SOUQ News Television, and here we go beyond the headlines. From breaking news, in-depth conversational programs, to market analysis and indices. From policies affecting growth to unique documentaries, from live event coverage to bespoke productions, we deliver content that connects you to the world. At SOUQ News Television, we provide news surrounding business, economy, and development, infomercials and jingles that stand out, short and long-form documentaries crafted to international standards, independent production spaces with full technical support, special coverage for individual and corporate events, a special form of documentaries through our prestige package, Immortals, where we tell your story the way you'd love it, and business support services tailored for small enterprises. SOUQ News TV, powered by FemWatch Limited, also home to the Isle 95.9 FM Lagos and Kasua 99.7 FM Kano, and Emirate News Television Abuja, together forming Africa's trusted media powerhouse. Storytelling, coverage, and connection that matters. SOUQ News TV, your home for business, economy, and development. Welcome to Cashcraft, where opportunities meet insight. Today, we're journeying into the field of prosperity where towering oil palms wave not just leaves, but the promise of wealth. From the humid groves of Edo to the rich red earth of Delta, a quiet boom is unfolding. Dough has been there for many years, but we could take advantage of this. This is one opportunity that holds the key to food security, foreign exchange savings, and thousands of jobs. Yes, we're talking about palm oil, Africa's red gold, But how do you tap into this opportunity? What does it take to build a business around palm oil, from plantation to profit? Let's break it down step by step. 1. Understand the landscape. The first step is knowledge. Nigeria's oil palm production has risen by over 41% in the past decades, from 8.2 million metric tons in 2014 to 11.6 million in 2023, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Yet, with over 200 million mouths to feed and rising global demand, we are still importing palm oil to close the gap. That's your opportunity to become a local producer or processor. Step 2, choose your entry point. There are 3 main ways to enter into the palm oil value chain. Palm plantation farming. Cultivating your own palm trees is long-term but rewarding. Now you can look at processing. Buying palm fruits, popularly known as banga, I'm sure you know that, and converting it into oil with machines. That's another one. And trading. You can buy and sell finished oil in local or export markets. Each has different startup costs and time frames, so you must match your capital, patience, and passion. Before I go further, remember that this is not a professional guide, rather a wake-up call that there are opportunities everywhere. Now let's go to step 3. Get land or source supply. According to research, some initiatives like the Edo Oil Palm Development Program, EOPDP, and Delta State Delcom scheme are making access to land to become easier. Findings shows that in Edo State, over 114,000 hectares have been allocated to both big and small investors, and over 65,000 hectares have already been accessed. In Delta, 130,000 hectares have been provided by communities under a cooperative model, with over 3,000 smallholders farmers already on board. Even if you can't own land, you can start small by sourcing fruit from cooperatives or leasing a small processing space. Of course you can. Now let's move to 4. Know the cost and time frame. It costs between $7,000 to $8,000 to cultivate 1 hectare of palm from nursery to maturity, but it takes about 3 to 4 years for the trees to start yielding. If you want quick returns, processing and trading may be better. You can buy a small-scale palm oil milling machines for 1.5 million to 3 million naira, or even less if you join a cooperative or lease. So let's go to step 5. Invest in knowledge and market access. Join farmer cooperatives like those in Delcom. They give access to training, markets, and funding. You can also link up with established companies like Presco and Okomo Oil. Yeah? I'm not marketing, but it's a way to tell you that, look, there are opportunities everywhere. All of these are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Step 6, think sustainability and value addition. Palm oil is not just for stew and soup. Yeah, think big. You can produce refined oil, cosmetics, biodiesel, and export-grade products. Investors are already joining this, and governments are backing it. You can do your research. There is also growing interest in eco-friendly farming and traceable supply chains. If you do it right, foreign buyers will come looking. Palm oil may have its controversies, but in Africa, especially in Nigeria, it is heritage, it is economy, it is future. The rise of Edo and Delta as palm oil giants is not just about hectares or harvest. It is about people creating jobs, reducing imports, and saving foreign exchange. If you are looking for a business with cheap roots and wide branches, palm oil may just be your calling. This has been Cashcraft, your guide to turning ideas into income. I am Grace Komalafe. Join us again next time, and remember, the ground beneath your feet might be your next big break. See you again. Some people hear the sound of wood being cut and they think stress, dust, wahala. They say, I beg, who won't suffer with saw and hammer? To them, woodworking is messy, tiring, and just not worth the trouble. But others, they see something else. They see polished tables, handcrafted shelves, stylish stools. They see beauty, value, and serious money. Because yes, cutting wood may be tough, but the hustle can turn into pure profit. My name is Grace Komolafe. Welcome to Cash Craft, where we show you how every skills can become money-making ventures. Today, we are talking woodworking, from basic tools to beautiful designs, and how to turn timber into treasure. Now, let's cut into it. Step 1. Pick your project. Before you saw your first board, ask yourself, what do you want to build? Furniture, shelves, decorative wall panels, or maybe customized kitchen boards. Start small. A simple stool or bookshelf can teach you the basics and still fetch good money. Let's move to step 2. Tools, timber, and a plan. You don't need a massive workshop to start. Basic tools like a measuring tape, hand saw, drill, clamps, and sandpaper will do. Choose durable wood like teak, mahogany, or poplar for long-lasting products. And don't forget the blueprint. Sketch a project or download free woodworking plans online. A clear-cut list saves you time, wood, and costly mistakes. Let's move to step 3. Cut, build, finish. Measure twice, cut once. That's the golden rule. Then assemble carefully. Use wood glue and screws for strong joints. Once it's built, sand smooth and apply a finished varnished wax or paint to protect and beautify. That rustic table or wine rack, it just went from workshop to showroom. Let's move ahead. Step 4. Sell like a pro. Now the magic part is turning your craft into cash. Who is your customer? Young couples, urban decorators, cafe owners. They love custom, handmade, and unique. Use social media to showcase your work. Instagram, Pinterest, and all of that are gold mines for visibility. You can add pricing, yes, delivery info, and behind-the-scenes videos. Look, that's a great catch. You need to let people see your videos where you are doing your work uniquely. That's an addition and validation. Now, want more reach? Yes, attend fairs, pop-up shops, or sell via platforms that you know. A whole lot of them are out there. Let's move to step 5. Stand out to scale. Offer engraving, custom size, or eco-friendly finishes. Don't just sell a table. Sell a story. Yes, you can see the emphasis. Sell a story. Handcrafted in Ibadan or upcycled from reclaimed wood. People pay more when the product means more. Network with interior decorators, real estate agents, and even planners. Your one shelf may become a hotel's full order. But of course, no business is all smooth wood. Power issues could happen, tool costs, and inconsistent wood supply can slow you down. Still, with skills, strategy, and smart marketing, woodworking can take you from small workshop to a big warehouse. So here is your takeaway. And don't forget to do your proper research, because this is only a heads up, a wake-up call that you can do it. Woodworking is not just craftsmanship, it's cashmanship. It's a business of creativity, precision, and pride. Whether you are making one stool a week or outfitting full apartments, this is a hustle that builds literally. This has been Cashcraft, and I am Grace Komolafe, reminding you that if life gives you timber, turn it into treasure. Until next time, build bold, build smart.
Across the lush southern corridors of Nigeria, a quiet revolution is taking root, rooted in the oil palm plantations of Edo and Delta states. Once the pride of West Africa and a global supplier of palm oil in the pre-independence era, Nigeria is returning to its agricultural strength. The rise in demand for palm oil, both domestically and globally, is fueling a new boom, one that is redefining investment flows, empowering communities, and reawakening an indigenous industry long overshadowed by crude oil. Investors have earmarked over $855 million for oil palm cultivation in Edo State alone. Under the Edo Oil Palm Development Program, 114,000 hectares of land have been allocated, with 65,000 already accessed and 18,000 hectares cultivated. Companies like Okomu Oil and Presco, both listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, are not just expanding, they are thriving despite economic headwinds. In Delta State, the story is equally robust. Through the Delcom cooperative model, 130,000 hectares have been released by local communities, engaging 145 companies and over 3,000 smallholder farmers. This homegrown initiative is not just restoring livelihoods, it is building wealth from the roots up. This resurgence reflects the deeper uniqueness of Africa, our ability to blend tradition with innovation, and to transform natural abundance into economic might. As Nigeria reduces palm oil imports, saves foreign exchange, and creates thousands of jobs, the continent watches. The palm oil boom is not just an agricultural story, it is an African story. One of resilience, self-reliance, and a return to prosperity built on the soil of our ancestors. I'm Moyosore Adebi for SOUQ News TV.
From Dubai to Lagos, Nigeria, and across the globe, SOUQ News TV is your #1 station focusing on business, economy, and development. With global digital reach, we connect Africa's pulse to the world stage. Welcome to SOUQ News Television, and here we go beyond the headlines, from breaking news, in-depth conversational programs, to market analysis and indices. From policies affecting growth to unique documentaries, from live event coverage to bespoke productions, we deliver content that connects you to the world. At SOUQ News Television, we provide news surrounding business, economy, and development, infomercials and jingles that stand out, short and long-form documentaries crafted to international standards, independent production spaces with full technical support, special coverage for individual and corporate events, a special form of documentaries through our prestige package, Immortals, where we tell your story the way you'd love it, and business support services tailored for small enterprises. SOUQ News TV, powered by FemWatch Limited, also home to the Isle 95.9 FM Lagos and Kasua 99.7 FM Kano, and Emirate News Television Abuja, together forming Africa's trusted media powerhouse. Storytelling, coverage, and connection that matters. SOUQ News TV, your home for business, economy, and development.
Well, I think as the name goes, we are still faring very well. We are still holding on. Basically, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited is a Nigerian company owned by the federal government of Nigeria, the 36 states, and the 774 local governments. The federal government has 47% shares in NDPHC, and the 36 states and federal capital territory, plus the 774 local governments, own the remaining 53%. Originally, it was supposed to be a stopgap, build and sell power plants to increase the power availability. But in the process, as the company moved along, they discovered that if you build power plants, you also have to build complementary transmission networks. And then if you have transmission networks, you will also need the distribution network so that the power can ultimately get to the consumers. And so because of the gap that was in the sector at the time, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited was asked to build more power transmission networks, substations, injection substations. So over time, we had grown into the behemoth that we are today. Principally, we have 8 power plants functioning now, and then 2 are in the process of being completed. So that's what Niger Delta has been. But basically, I can say without any iota of contradiction that Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited has been able to increase the capacity, the network capacity, by about 50%, and of course the distribution capacity by about 60%. We are capable of producing up to 4,000 megawatts now, but there are still some constraints in the transmission network, which is being addressed by the various arms of government and the various stakeholders in the sector. If I want to talk about the problems in the power sector, you need more than an hour program. They are multifaceted. And each time solutions are being found, they are not far-reaching enough. For instance, before the enactment of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, it was thought that the problem was we didn't have enough generation power, and that's what gave rise to the NIPP, which is the National Integrated Power Project, which was basically to increase the power availability in Nigeria. And there were gaps because at that time, I don't think the solution was holistic enough. I'm talking of during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. You remember the National Integrated Power Project was conceived at the time. And it's strange that for the past many years, we are talking about 4,000 megawatts, 4,000. In reality, the available power in Nigeria is about 16,000 megawatts now, between 13,000 and 16,000 megawatts. So you wonder, why are we producing or generating or putting on the grid about 4,800 megawatts? So there's a gap. And the gap is basically the fact that the present network is aged. It's inadequate. There is fragmentation in the sector. You have, as of today, about 26 different bodies in the power sector. And it's a typical Nigerian problem. Once Nigeria identifies a problem, they create another agency to deal with that problem, rather than looking at the problem in the eye and say, this is the problem. And I can give you so many examples. For instance, traffic, which is very basic to everybody. When after the Udoji Award in the early 70s, I think it was in the early 70s, and people had phone to purchase cars, traffic began to grow. Now, instead of taking a holistic attitude and train the police to do what they're supposed to do, expand the road networks, and begin to put a culture of driving properly in the country, we created the yellow fever, the traffic wardens at the time. You remember at the time, traffic warden was separated from the Nigerian police.
That's right.
And the problem was not solved because the people were still constrained to virtually the same network of roads, more cars on the same network of roads. And then we stopped training drivers. So Federal Road Safety Commission was formed. And of course, I'm sure that you all know that the problem became worse. And now all of the state governments are creating their own variants of the Federal Road Safety Code. An example is LASMA in Lagos. And the people are still on the same roads. You know, so whereas we had 200 cars on a stretch of road, now we have 1,000. Now we have drivers who cannot read traffic signs, which are not even there. So today, when people see traffic lights, either in Abuja or in Lagos, I mean, they don't even know what to do. I'm sure that, I can't remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. I cannot remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. You know, it's the same thing with the issue of corruption. When we detected, corruption was increasing, we started creating so many variants of, and I always ask the question, where is the equivalence of EFCC in the countries that we're trying to be like? So we have created EFCC, we have created ICPC, we have created Bureau for, what's that other agency? Sorry? No. Those are another problem entirely. The BP and the BPP, you know. I mean, I'm talking of Code of Conduct Bureau. Okay. But in all honesty, can we say that corruption has reduced in Nigeria? Can we say that? So the problem is that we don't look at problems in the face and deal with the issue rather than creating bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies. We don't have the variants of EFCC, ICPC, and Code of Conduct Bureau in the countries that we're trying to be like. In this age and times, honestly, you don't need, it's not rocket science. There is hardly anything you want to do that has not been done before or that is not being done in some other places. I mean, so you see in various sectors that once we identify a problem, rather than look the problem in the eye and providing solution to it, we create another body. It will appear to me that it is finding job for the boys, you know, and that is one of the reasons why we are where we are today. I cannot remember the last time anybody had to do driving tests to obtain a driver's license. I can't remember. In the US, if you want to obtain a driver's license, it's a long process. And I remember my daughter, when she went to the US at the age of 18, I remember when she wanted to go and obtain a driver's license, she called me and said, "Daddy, please pray for me." And I think the first time she went there, she didn't make it. And it was one slight error. And eventually, she had to go back, you know, to retake the test. So that's what I see that we're doing wrong. And that has virtually destroyed all the sectors. The power sector is faced with so many problems. I was trying to explain to you, for instance, that the discos have various coverage areas. And if you take them one by one, you will see that some of them are covering a landmass that is bigger than 2, 3, 4 African countries together. You know, somebody was on my secondary school classmates forum. somebody was trying to do a comparison between Botswana and Nigeria. And I said, Botswana has 581,000 kilometers, square kilometers. But 70% of that is Kalahari Desert. So effectively, what they have is less than 100 and something thousand kilometers. Nigeria has a vast land. Botswana has a population of 2.5 or 2 point something million. You can't compare that to. There's no basis. There's no basis. And so if they have 1,000 naira, their GDP is likely to be higher than that of Nigeria. You know, Nigeria has 210 million people. Officially? Yes, officially. You know, you can see the population of Lagos. I'm sure that the population of Botswana is not as thick as Surulere alone. I'm not trying to give excuses for what we are in Nigeria or how we're doing things badly. But I'm saying that we have a giant problem. We have giant problems in all of the areas. And we need to put our heads together to provide solutions to these problems. You know, you can say that Nigeria is a country in progress. I know that we have enough human resources. We have enough intellectuals to find solutions to our problems. And I'm beginning to see that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is tackling the problems headlong. I don't want to say that they work in silos. I mean, it would not be absolutely correct. I don't want to say that. That would be too negative. I would like to say that there's need for better collaboration between all of them. And then one of the greatest things that we need to do is that there must be a coordinating agency that is not encumbered with or by bureaucratic procedures. Okay, NEC is supposed to be the regulator in the society. Now, like I said before, if you have a regulator, they must be trained. And we shouldn't be ashamed to train our regulators and to ensure that we have the right people in those positions. But like I said, almost all the agencies in Nigeria, you find a lawyer heading an engineering company. You know, I mean, it's not done. And what happens is that I don't want to create a war between professions, but the truth of the matter is that if you are a lawyer and you have you're doing legal consultancy in the sector, that doesn't make you to be chief executive of a purely engineering company. You know, the last time it was an accountant that was in charge of one of the parasitals in the sector, and you know, even now that there's a new government, you see all kinds of people trying to outdo each other here and there. TCN, for instance, is supposed to be in charge of the transmission networks, okay. But you have the independent ISO under them. How is that going to work? I mean, that is supposed to be an independent, and it cannot be under TCN. Yeah. You know, the discos, for instance, who is supervising them? NERC is supposed to supervise them, but you have on the board BPE, you know, that has 40% of the shares, and they're supposed to monitor them. Are they doing that? And then now the Yoruba people say amukun eru ewo oni wo saleni. That is, if a man is crippled or has bent knees and is carrying a load, it's not likely that the load will be straight because the legs are bent anyway. So that is the problem that we have. You know, the root cause, we are not attacking the root cause. You know, the electricity power sector reform has a transition program. But unfortunately, because we didn't do the privatization properly, we gave it to people who have no financial resources. They borrowed money from the banks to purchase the concession anyway. You know, because they borrowed money from the bank, they don't have enough funds to repair the aging facility that they inherited. So that is a problem. Now the bank is on them. The bank lent them money for 5 years, or you know, whereas this is a sector that is, you need long-term fund. You know, you need to have enough money to lay new cables, replace transformers. Some of these transformers have been there since 1960-something, to replace them. Look, where I come from in Ondo South Central District, we have not had power for up to 15 years now from the national grid. Everybody is an electricity generator company on his own. When we stepped into it to see what was happening, we discovered that the distribution company did not have enough money to repair the damaged distribution networks. So NDBSC stepped into it, and we've spent almost 3 billion to repair all of that.
3 billion?
Almost 3 billion. I mean, we're talking about 6 local governments. At a point, by the time we had finished the reticulation of the networks in 5 of the local governments, we discovered that there is the source of supply is from Ondo. Ondo has a 2 by 30 MVA substation. One of that substation is gone. So it means that the distance of almost 100 kilometers from Ondo to Ore and to Ilaje, to Igbokoda area, to Mahin and Co. Just one single 33 kV line is coming from that. So by the time the light gets to Okitipupa, what you have is candle light. It's the same thing we saw in Lafia, for instance. For years, Lafia, even the government house in Lafia, was being operated on generator, because the single line feeding Lafia and the entire Nasarawa state is from Abuja. So that's why we stepped in and built the 330, 132, 33 kV substation, which was commissioned early last year by President Muhammadu Buhari. And you can see the joy in the faces of the people. Now, in Ondo South Central District, for instance, they are building, the NDDC, not NDPHC, is building a 132 kV substation in Odeonije, which should help to bring power from Omotosho and to that area. But they have been on it for years now. And without the completion of that, there's nothing that can happen in the place. They will still have candlelight. So these are the problems. Now, NDDC is independent of NEC. It's virtually independent of the DISCO. It's independent of the... But they are doing a good work, because they have offered to do, they have identified the problem and they have offered to do it. But who is coordinating these activities to ensure that everybody is working? And you know, one of the things I always complain about is that since this past 6-10 years, for instance, TCN has many of his projects are 85–90% completed. Some of the problems are just way-live, that the government should collaborate with the state governments to resolve. But what do you have? A substation is ready in Akure, for instance. A 330 kVA substation is ready in Akure. The transmission line is supposed to come from Oshogbo to Akure, and another transmission line is supposed to come from Benin and drop in Akure. Because of way-live issue along the route from Oshogbo to Akure, that project has been stalled for almost 6 years. So there has to be an organization that is above neck, that is linked only to the president, that will look at all of these things. I talked about the fragmentation in the sector. You know, look, and let me tell you something. I know that electricity is a commercial venture. Yeah. And when you put your money there, you should be able to recover your investment. However, it's also a social contract between the government and the people. It's a social contract. You know, so if you have such a transmission line, everybody should be involved. And I remember that it has to be a responsibility. I remember when we were doing a project in Owerri, and because the transformers have been there for a long time, we needed to remove the transformers to a workshop somewhere in Ikorodu there for repairs, so that when they take them back, it can function properly. And we had given authority to the EPC contractor to go and remove the transformer. But of course, when the community saw that they were removing their transformer, this was a transformer that has not been functioning for the past 10–15 years. They refused to let them go, and the governor had to intervene. The governor also refused to let them take the transformer away. I had to personally intervene with the governor, speak with the governor, write an undertaking before the transformer can be moved to the workshop for repairs. I mean, it's not repairs, but you know they need to change the oil and make sure it's in good working condition, because it's been on the plinth for 15 years. So there has to be a coordinating agency that is devoid of bureaucratic encumbers. Initially, NDPC was created from the federation account. The initial seed money for NDPC was from the federation account. However, since we started producing electricity, let me put it that way, we don't receive subvention from the government. So our revenue is from the sale of electricity, sale of energy to the network and to what we call willing buyers. For instance, you will see that we still, even outside the country, we sell power to countries outside Nigeria. Yeah. So that's how we derive our... But because also we are owned by the 3 tiers of government, we have also embarked on working with the other sectors to improve the networks. For instance, we build distribution. So from the profit that we have, we build distribution networks virtually in all... There is no state in Nigeria that has not felt the impact of NDPC. And then we, like I said, the transmission substation in Lafia was constructed by NDPC. It's like LNG. I mean, LNG cannot receive subvention from the federal government anymore. I mean, of course, initially, government put in their own investment and the private sector put in their own investment. And I'm hoping that we will move away from this structure in NDPC I'm really hoping that we'll and adopt the NLG structure, for instance, and bring in a huge investor to acquire 49% so that we can start operating like an LNG. You know, there's a lot of confusion in the society, in you know, and even those even some high government officials don't even know the functions of NDPC. They don't even know. I mean, we were in a gathering some time ago, and a former minister who claimed to have been a part of the conception of NDPC was annoyed when somebody threw a question at him, and he said, "What are you talking about? I don't have power in my house, and you guys are sitting down there." And I had to lecture him and say, "Hey, I'm not supposed to put power in your house. I'm just a businessman, you know, in the sector, producing oil, producing power, electricity, like every other person, like, what's the name of Elumelu's Transcorp Power, and selling it. That's all we are."
Tom Henry Itauma. I'm from Akwa Ibom State, Eke local government precisely. My primary school at Akwa Ibom Church Primary School, so young Eket, where I grew up in the early 70s. I moved into government secondary school at Eket. I finished my school set in 1981. It was a jolly good experience. Before I moved over to Lagos, where I did my higher school, Federal School for Art and Science, Victoria Island, and from where I took my JAM, then I got admission to study English and literary studies in the great University of Calabar. Growing up was fun, education was fun. We enjoyed the bits of life all we went through there, from primary to secondary school, the dormitory lives, my friends, my colleagues. Coming over to Lagos was quite an experience. My first time in Lagos, arriving after a tortuous journey back then. Went over to VI, studied along with some blue chip children. Federal School for Art and Science then, as it was called, just where you have the law school now. It was quite an experience. And back to University of Calabar, we had quite a drill, the studies of English language and literature. I happen to have specialized in literature, where we did a thorough work on all the spheres of literature, the landscape of literature. We almost exhausted it with key professors and lecturers. Talking about Afro-American literature, Caribbean literature, South African literature, Russian literature, literature of social protest. Then we come back to African literature, where we explored the whole landscape. African literature, African drama, African prose, and storytelling, folk tales, and trickster stories. It was a huge experience that changed my life. And coming over here, finished our youth service, did my youth service in Imo State then. We had respect as corporate. We were well treated. And came over back to Lagos, looking for work in Lagos, 1988, 89. We started a magazine in Lagos here. We call it the Hits magazine. It was tailored after the Right On magazine. It was a music magazine. We started that stuff in Lagos here, and then we couldn't sustain it because of the finances. Luckily for me, I was able to run, got a job with the bank, and then I started a marketing aspect for the bank. From the bank, the merchant bank, when the bank went under, I decided to go solo. That brought me to the book industry. Always have this passion for books, right from my primary school to my secondary school. My mom was a teacher, a successful teacher. We were encouraged to read books. We used to hide ourselves in the libraries, my local government libraries. So when I got admitted to the University of Calabar, all our long vacations, we were always found in the library. Of course, there was no GSM then. The library was our contact space, where we go to the libraries to get information about when the school is going to resume, because apart from news, radio and all that, you may not know when the school is going to resume. But when you meet with your friends, you know, in the library there, we meet with some other undergraduates, Uniben, Nsuka, Ife, some of our friends who were studying there, who came home for long vacations. So we interact with them, and before you know it, we hear, you people are going to resume this, that, and that's how my passion for books gets strengthened. When we resume schools, we exchange novels. We look for novels to read. We look for African writers series. We look for Headley Chase. We look for exotic books. We started collecting books. When we finished reading, we shared the books to our friends. We talked about the books, and from there we were able to explore the world. We sat down in the library and we knew what was happening in the apartheid South Africa. I did so much about the history of South Africa. I read about the Zulu aftermath. I read about the Mau Mau wars, the challenge of colonialism, the pro-colonial times. I had a good teacher who taught me history in the secondary school, Mr. Houghton. He did a yeoman's job. He led us through the whole spectrum of West African history. West African history by Adekunle Aromo-Laran. We talked about the Oyo Empire, Songhai Empire, Timbuktu, the Great Mali Empire. You know, all these things stir up our curiosities. And since then, we never departed from books. Worked in close association with the Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria, IPAN. These are people that do analysis for products, water analysis, analysis of waste and effluent, radioactive activity, food and drug analysis. We have worked with quality control experts across the industries. We have worked with establishments where they do root crop research. We have worked with the pharmaceutical research industries, medical research bodies, malaria research establishments, cancer research establishment. These people look for us for specialized information in the management of special disease and treatment. Treatment in oncology. People in the area of traditional medicine, alternative medicine, natural medicine. They look for it. We are partnering with the Nigerian Institute of Science and Technology, Institute of Natural Medicine in Victoria Island, to work with them in the area of the development of herbal medicines in Nigeria. We have books we partner with them to promote. You see, medicinal plants from eastern Nigeria, medicinal plants from the northeast, medicinal plants from the southwest, medicinal plants from the south-south. We market these books for people who want to know. No, we are working now on the production in partnership with relevant institute of the Nigerian pharmacopoeia. We know about the British pharmacopoeia. We know about the American pharmacopoeia, the Japanese pharmacopoeia, and herbology. We are working towards having the Nigerian pharmacopoeia. This is going to be a compendium of materials that talks about medicinal plants of value, medicinal plants that have healing properties. We are working with specialists, pharmacognosy, phytochemists, and by God's grace, this is going to come into fruition. We partner with the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and all kinds of health bodies that we can't even mention. So many of them invite us for their annual conferences, which is rotated across different states in different years across the nation. So we've traveled, and in most of these conferences, you have experts, deans of faculties, heads of departments that reach out to us with informations in books and journals that are relevant for their students and for their practitioners. We don't only market reference books and textbooks in all fields of study, all fields of human endeavor. We also market relevant journals, research journals, peer-reviewed journals in sociology, in psychology, in law, research journals in oncology, in public health, community medicine, in nursing, research journals in nutrition and dietetics, food science, international relations. We partner with the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Victoria Island. We have key journals in world affairs, African affairs, and these journals will help them to distribute to all relevant establishments and departments that need it. So it has been a great job, very taxing and exciting. Each book added a new spectrum of learning and knowledge for us. When we got into literature and poetry, we explore a whole lot. When we went into American history, the black history, we read about the nation of Islam. We read about Elijah Muhammad. We knew the struggle they had to go through, racism and all that stuff. And it really inspired us to see what we can do to add value to knowledge. And it has brought us this far. So it's been passion, not really born out of the money or whatever. Of course, when you have value to present, you'll be appreciated in many ways. We have had sundry appreciations from establishments, from institutes across West Africa and beyond. You know, we partner with international publishers all over the world to source cutting-edge materials for our clients. We take pains to go through a lot of materials that come in here. Whether there are new materials or whether there are new, we believe that when you are doing research, it is what is called cross-cultural research. You start from the past and then come to the present. Research in any field, what happened before, where we were before and where we are now, and then we look forward. So we have a lot of materials for our clients, and we are on an endless journey of search. When we started this business, we came face to face with HIV. We go after books on HIV and AIDS. We got them across to our clients and our readers. As we went further, Ebola came, and we sourced for materials for medical virologists. It's a virus. Clinical virology, we gave the books to them, and they were very happy. We got the materials. We did what is called public health awareness to get people assured that these things are preventable. That is not the end of life. You see, when you have the information, you have the confidence to practice, you are not scared of whatever. Whatever is coming in probably had happened before. All we need is for new information to combat the emerging diseases. There are journals that deal with emerging infectious diseases. We provide these materials for practitioners, and it has served the purpose over the years. The secret of my success has been the impartation of specialist knowledge, tertiary knowledge for professionals. You know, education and learning is a lifelong journey. People talk about continuous professional development. For instance, in the media world and the real estate world, we have partnered with people who are doing media studies. You know, the print media, the electronic media, mass communication as a whole. We have provided a lot of materials for them. So now we have specialists in the media. We have special editors, screenwriters, short story writers, photojournalists, you know, and we provide them these materials. In the real estate world, we have attended conferences of real estate practitioners, providing cutting-edge materials for them. in real estate development, information technology, property development, property law. All these materials assist them in the practice of real estate. We have gone far more. We work with people, the QS, quantity surveyors, town planners, environmental managers, people who do environmental audits, environmental impact assessments, space planning. We work with them, and these materials we get from all across the world. If you are practicing in this area and you need materials to improve your services and the value you are creating, you will need us. We have a whole list of experts in different fields that reach us when they have challenges, when they have need for special information to solve specific problems. They reach out to us. They call, a bookman, all range. We need books in this area. For instance, we had the former Minister of Health, that great woman, Ponja Iwala. She will always call us, look, all range, we need books on international economics. And we used to give her books on international economics. And many other experts like that. We have books for people who are doing radioactive interventions, people who are doing environmental management, people who are doing analysis, food analysts, all over the spectrum. We provide books for them. Food engineering, we give them books on food contaminants, food additives. These are not books to just go to anywhere and get. We have been able to interface with them, Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology. Reading has a tremendous impact on influence on human life. It helps you to appreciate issues, ideas, views, and opinion. It makes you an active participant in intellectual discourse and in intellectual environment. You are not ignorant of what is happening around you. It makes you a leader. Yes, not all readers are leaders, but most impactful leaders are readers. Books will change you. Books will empower you. Books will give you self-confidence. When I sit down with architects and I'm discussing, I talked about landscape architecture. I talked about interior design. They begin to wonder whether I studied architecture. Then I started talking with oncologists, gynecologists, maybe gynecological oncologists. They think that maybe I studied medicine. I didn't do no medicine. I've been able to read some books, interface with them. I have attended their workshops, so many, and I've read their books. Some books that come to me, I try to go through the introduction and the preface. I try to. Books in all areas. You understand? I was looking at a book on anesthesiology, and I found out that no serious surgery could be carried out without an anesthetist. Surgical intervention, is it abdominal surgery? Is it cancer oncology? You need a professional. These are people that manage the airways. When the patient has been numbed with drugs for the intervention, the surgical experience, maybe for 3, 4, 5 hours, there has to be a resuscitation. And this is the specialist area for anesthetists. Not all doctors can handle that. You are doing cesarean section. You are doing ENT surgery. You need them. So you have a team of doctors that will invariably handle a serious, for instance, at the orthopedic hospital, we want to do amputation. You have the plaster people, you have the hematologist, you have the anesthesiologist, and you have the surgeon, who is a very good orthopedic surgeon to handle amputation, whether it's amputation of the legs and all that, because they have to manage, the hematologist will manage the loss of blood, then the anesthetist, then the orthopedic nurse will be there. Then we have the theater nurse will be there. All of them well kitted for the operations. It will look as if they are going to travel to Mars. Safety procedures, management of spills, cleaning, and everything. Then rolling the patients to a special, maybe it's an amenity ward where they are going to keep the person to manage the post-operative procedures and all that. Of course, there are pre-surgical experiences, the tests, the examination, the review and all that before the real process. So these are not things we learned overnight. It has taken a process of time. And we got to know that, oh, this is how the deal is done. Great insurgents of e-materials, e-books, digital books, and of course, the World Wide Web. It has helped us to access materials easily. But you see, initially people were afraid that with the advent of the e-books and all that, that the textbooks, the physical books, will be phased out. But that is far from the truth. Libraries still get their core text and materials. They have the sections for the core text and materials and journals and serials. Then they have the section we call the digital libraries. Polytechnic libraries, university libraries across the countries, they have these sections. But my experience with these digital libraries has been the management of digital libraries, the power situation in Nigeria, and the maintenance culture. Most of the institutions that started with the e-library, they have always come back to complain that these materials, within a short spell of time, because of instability of power. You know, the computers and all the digital infrastructures, they need steady and standby power supplies. Most of them have acquired the solar systems to power these equipments, but truly speaking, it has not been sustainable. Sometimes we had some dubious students vandalize these facilities, and then people always have to fall back on books. With the smartphones now, students can get a lot of materials and all that, and they read, but I can tell you that people who are doing serious research, They come back to us for books. You are doing research, you have to do your references, your bibliography. You have to show evidence, materials you have read, both online and offline. You are doing your doctorate program, master's program, to whatever level. At the level we are now, we believe that we've added value to education, to training, and to teaching. Our next phase now, we're trying to see how we can give back to the society through our interface with like-minded NGOs. We have started our book cafe, all-range book cafe, where we invite people, it's a private library, to come and read and study in a relaxed atmosphere, where you can come in and do your book reviews. If you're a writer, you come in and do your book reviews, review your textbooks. Going forward too, we also have our NGO, which we are working on, that borders on environmental management. We call it the Campaign for Sustainable Environment. This is a program we have been running the last 5 years. We are talking about global warming and climate change. We do environmental education.
Said is going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, you know, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff? Within this side, let's also learn citizens. Promises, see something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of SOUQ Business Landscape, where we break down forces shaping the market, policy and enterprise, and everything around it. I am Olumide Shokoya. Of course, I'm not the only one here. I have the ever think tank, Dr. Idahosa Samanzi. So glad to always have you on SOUQ Business Landscape. Good morning.
Olumide, good morning. Pleasure to be here. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Africans. All global citizens, we say hello to you from our studio in Lagos. We want another day to talk about things that change and transform economy and development.
All right, yes, on SOUQ Business Landscape, don't forget you can also drop your comment. This is a discussion. We like to hear your comments, we like to hear your thoughts. So you can drop your comments, of course, like and share on our YouTube page at SOUQ News TV. So we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll start off. Stay tuned.
fit Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
I mean, Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigerian content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff? Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy, see something. This is SOUQ business landscape.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. Olumide and Dr. Idahosa Osamanze right here to give you to dissect all the policies, everything that is happening in the economy and beyond. Don't forget to like and share on our YouTube page at SOUQ News TV. So let's start off with the first story for today on SOUQ Business Landscape. Now, the Debt Management Office, DMO, plans to raise 800 billion naira through its February 2026 federal government bond auction, marking a significant increase from the corresponding period last year, though slightly below the record of 900 billion naira offered in January. Now, according to the bond offer circular published on the agency's website on Monday, the issuance comprises of 400 billion naira of 17.95%. Federal government June 2030. That's a 7-year reopening. We also have the 300 billion naira of 19.89%. Federal government May 2033. That's a 10-year reopening. And the 100 billion naira on, also bringing it to a total of 800 billion naira. Now, the planned auction reflects the government's continued reliance on domestic borrowing to finance budgetary needs and manage public debt obligations. Market analysts say investors' appetite will be shaped by prevailing liquidity conditions and yield expectations as authorities seek to balance funding requirements with debt sustainability and consideration. Now, Doctor, I am tempted to ask, is Nigeria borrowing to grow or to survive with what we are seeing here?
Well, I think we are borrowing to grow and also borrowing very strategically to be able to manage the economy. And I think that's the way people must see it. A lot of people complain that, oh, we have so much of debt, and I don't think that's actually the problem. The problem we have is not really debt to GDP, it's debt to revenue ratio. That's actually the challenge that we have as a country. And so what you see that government has done, and this is very strategic, is to reduce debt to local liabilities rather than borrowing in hard currency. And that, to a very large extent, help your FX markets to remain stable over a period of time. And also to ensure that, of course, it's able to also mop up money from circulation because a lot of bank pensions people will also want to buy into the bond because the yield is better and higher. So what you see government doing is that it's not just borrowing, but it's using borrowing as instrument for national development. So you are putting more money in the hands of people who are subscribing to the bond. The businesses that are subscribing to the bond are better. The only downside to this kind of borrowing is the fact that MSME may not have enough of fund because people will move money away from the conventional places where you can take loans at a very low exchange rate to places where people are expecting very high yield. But again, you see here, the bonds are always oversubscribed every time it's floated because people have confidence now in the economy. So it's balancing up the economy, that whether you are even using this money to service old debt, or you are using it to build an infrastructure, or you are using it to manage the deficit on the budget, whatever it is, that debt is creating more money in the hands of people, but not in liquid cash, but in assets. So if I buy a bond and I'm expecting 17, 18% on the bond, so which means in the next financial year, I become richer than I was today. So it's an investment opportunity for businesses and the citizens themselves who lives in this environment. and thereby actually spreading wealth across, in my view.
All right, so if I may ask, how sustainable is Nigeria's current pace of local domestic borrowing? How sustainable is it?
Well, I think it's very hugely sustainable, because what you see government is doing is actually not going to commercial bank to go take money, which was what was prevalent in the previous administrations and the successive administrations in the past. So people go and borrow from the banks. So banks were running after government officials to take more money. And of course, you know that the interest rates were very high. And most of the time, like people used to argue, is that you go to the government, they put their money in your bank, then you borrow it and loan them the money, and then they pay excessive high interest rate. But what is different from this kind of borrowing, which of course the current government or regime is doing, is the fact that they're actually not looking at borrowing from banks per se. All they're doing is taking money from the economy, whether it's from the bank who are investing in the bond, or from insurance companies that are investing in the bond, or pension companies that are investing in the bond, or individuals who are also subscribing to the bond. Now, what this means is that this is an investment. Government promises a higher yield, and everybody is situated at that point. So I invest in government bond, and it takes a time to mature. And as government is making money, they are able to pay back, and people are receiving this return. So that makes it really sustainable, because you are not having a loan to say, okay, if you are taking from a commercial bank, you have to do 38%. But here, the target profit or rate that you are having is between 16 and 18%, which is still far better than going to the commercial bank to take a loan. So to that extent, it is hugely sustainable, because you can roll them over year in, year out. And as long as people are subscribing and they are getting return for their money, then of course the people are becoming wealthier, as it were. And then of course government will is not grinded, it's also moving. Yeah, but the beauty is the fact that you will have your forest stable, and you are not under pressure, because there's a whole lot of activities that are happening. Of course, the stock exchange and everybody is taking advantage of this government borrowing. And most importantly, inflation is managed by moving a lot of money out of the hands of the people.
Now, you mentioned something. You mentioned wealth creation. You said making people wealthy. Then you also mentioned that the MSMEs might not have access or enough access to this. So if we're talking about wealth creation, making every other person
they will have access. What I'm saying is that there may not be so much liquidity in the commercial bank for MSMEs.
Okay.
But the truth is that the MSMEs can even benefit from buying the bond. It's also for them a way of creating their own wealth. So if you're a small business and government is subscribing to bonds, you are putting 400 million in that subscription, and you know you are going to make 18%. So you're actually increasing or growing your capital. That's what it means.
Yes.
So it's even a smarter way for you to grow capital. So the point I'm saying is that there may not be enough liquidity in the banking environment, because a lot of people are moving this money to get this bond so that they can get, because if you put money in fixed deposit in commercial bank, you can't get up to 5%. So if you have a place where you can put your money and get 16%, 18%, it makes more sense to you as an investor or a business person. So you see a lot of investors are going to move toward these things, buying this bond, because they're going to make more money from it. So if you have MSME who has more money and they can also put in there, they are going to also be able to grow their capital. So that is what it is for them. But to say you want to now go to maybe commercial bank who are having all their money also in the bond, they may not have enough liquidity to be able to loan to people. That's the point I'm making.
All right, so now let's look at this from another angle. Yes, arguably, federal government bonds are the most secure to invest in. But let's also look at, from the federal government's perspective, these bonds are gotten to finance projects, to maybe float some debt and all that. And Nigerians have always been skeptical about how Nigerian federal government operate their spending budget? You know, this particular administration, they've been advised to operate a leaner budget. We have so many projects going on, some completed, some almost completed. We also have elections on the way. So how do you think this would all play out in the minds of?
Well, I don't think people need to complain too much about what government is borrowing, because we already know, and we cannot take our mind from what the reality is. That, number one, there is a huge infrastructure deficit in the country. And take, for example, you want to build an economy that is actually working. So you find that you need to invest hugely on infrastructure and see how you can leverage public-private partnership to do some of this infrastructure like we are seeing in the coastal road. I just came back from Nairobi, and you see the Mombasa road that is traveling from the town straight to the airport and straight to Mombasa is built PPP by this China Belt and Road Initiative. And at every successive junction, you are seeing a toll, of course, which is electronic transfer toll, not a normal toll. And so people have option to pass this road or pass the other road. And then the money is dropping for China, because China is directly receiving the money as people are taking to, because African has not demonstrated some measure of integrity in terms of payback of loan taking to build roads. So China built this road and they tolled the road. And I think government can do a lot of all that also to fund some of this deficit. But the truth of the matter is that when you look at the state of infrastructure in our country, we cannot but borrow money to fix it. Because we can't ask people to stay at home, not to go to school. We cannot ask people to not to go to hospital when they are sick. We cannot say people should not travel because government has not money. Because you imagine, the last time my friend traveled between Warri and Port Harcourt, he spent 24 hours on the road because of bad road. We cannot be experiencing these difficulties, and then people are querying that government, why are you borrowing? And we know that the revenue we generate, which is coming principally from oil, so we know how much it is. We know how much of tax revenue we are able to get, and that is not able to actually fix the infrastructure gap. And this is the conversation that people are running away from. I was watching the defense of the budget by the Ministry of Works, and that altercation that happened between David Umahi and Adams Oshomole.
Yes.
And when they were asking and said, okay, you said this portion of road, you are going to spend 40 million. Is it chicken road you are building? Or is it a farm road? Because I'm seeing dualization, and I'm also seeing 40 million. So I'm putting it in my head, what will 40 million buy in this road? Are we serious people? You know, these are the kind of conversation that you see people will have. So if you want to have clean road, then of course you must be willing to invest. You want a bigger airport where of course you have multiple runways, then of course you have to be able to put money on the project. But you see, we want good things, and we also don't want government to borrow, and we want the things to happen. That can only be a miracle. And I don't think manna is still falling these days, because the days of manners are long gone. So people must realize that if we want first-rate infrastructure, then government must borrow to develop this infrastructure. But one thing is that it may not be done in the form of social service, but we can actually, like the Belt and Road Initiative, which China is doing, actually build some of this infrastructure and find a way to recoup the resource that is put in it. And I think that for me is what is very strategic, that we have a road that is smooth, like they call it in the UAE, they call it a clean road, salik in Arabic. So we have clean road, but the money that is maintaining clean road is coming from the road user themselves, which is the road tax. If you also go to South Africa, you find that there's also a percentage they call petroleum tax, which is actually the road tax. So this money is taken from road users, and it's used to maintain this road. So if we don't do this strategically, you'll find that the space of this infrastructure gap will keep widening. Take, for example, only housing alone. The deficit is humongous.
But doctor, if you talk about infrastructure, yes, you mentioned Calabar Coastal, you mentioned the road. These are two of the infrastructures that we are seeing.
Big project, and then the Sokoto Badagry superhighway.
But we also have other infrastructures that, well, relatively are working, but suffering maintenance culture. I'm talking about rail. If you look at the rail, for instance, we've suffered vandalism for quite a while. Also, if you look at our refinery, we were promised last year it was going to be up and running by last 2 years, I beg your pardon, that it will be up and running. Now we're hearing reports from NNDPRA that hopefully the Port Harcourt refinery will be running by the end of, I think, this month or thereabouts. A lot of money has been invested in that, and Nigerians are still wondering, will still get to have that refinery working. These are projects that have been heavily invested. We also have a port around Niger that was commissioned and everything, but nothing happened.
Well, I think the issues are separating politics from economy or development, which is, for me, quite very, very important. Like Professor Kladake has argued that the reason why most African states are not developing is because we politicize every economic or development projects. So when projects are cited in places where they are not supposed to work, and of course you can't find that in work. Just last week, past week, we were having a meeting and somebody asked me, what's the prospect of what they call it now, the project in Kogi State, the iron project, the steel plant in Kogi State. And I said, well, the way it was designed is designed not to work.
What about Ajaokuta?
Yes, Ajaokuta Steel, yes. It's designed not to work. So the reason is simple, and that's because of the choices we took as a people. I said, number one, that thing was not supposed to be sited in Ajaokuta. It was supposed to be sited in Enugu, because the core city is actually in Enugu. So if we have not politically cited that program, maybe by now, we would have reduced cost of making that inefficient. And then, of course, when you also look at the bidding process of that particular thing, it is known fact that Russia wanted to build that thing even for us pro bono. And our government, because we were not aligned at the time, said, look, we don't want to get anything free from either of the ideological part. And then, of course, we decided to ask for bids and tender. And then, of course, France won. France got the contract to build Ajaokuta and then subletted it to the Russian who had the technology to build it. So at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of compromise that don't work. So no matter how much money you are sinking in that thing, the technology, except you go and get a different technology, that thing may not come to life. These are the things that we're also seeing in the refinery. And I thank God that the current group general manager of NNPC was frank to say, we thank God that Dangote is here. And so let us not gaslight ourselves by the expectation that our refineries are going to work, that it has become a drain pipe to Nigerian resource. And I think that is the honest truth that people must look at. You can use Google to confirm this right now and check between 2010 and 2024 how much Nigeria has spent on the turnaround maintenance of this refinery. Is much more than what Dangote used in building his own refinery that is producing 650 liters of crude. It's more. And that is not the cost of the overhead of paying people who are working and going to work every day, but they are not producing kerosene, they are not producing diesel, they just resume and come back. For the same space of time, we have spent close to 8 trillion on overhead on this same refinery. Why carry those liabilities when they are not adding value? So I think this is what the government is trying to do, and that's why you see that one of the strategies of the government also this year is to sell off a number of assets to be able to fund the deficit in the current budget. That's what government is proposing, and I am sure that now government may have the courage to sell out that refinery. Because remember that Obasanjo actually sold those refineries, and some people argue, oh, it was national asset for the sake of national security. We should not allow our refinery to be managed by any other person. So when people talk about security and issues like this, but you are importing fuel, and you don't see it as a national security threat. But selling the refinery becomes a security threat. But the refinery is not working, but it becomes a drain pipe to the national resource. So for me, I don't have any expectation to see that those things are working. Now that we have that Dangote is able to produce petrol and sell to us, And we're also seeing that BUA is also getting into it. So modular refineries are here and there. So if private people can do it better, then we go with the market. And then, of course, the country can have concentration on social services, education, healthcare, housing, and face these issues that affect the common man and leave the business side to people who have the capacity or competence to manage it.
All right, lastly, you said that it should not be debt to GDP, instead debt to revenue.
No, I said the problem we have is not debt to GDP ratio.
Okay.
Because in terms of debt to GDP ratio, we still have a huge room to borrow more. The actual problem that constrains us is the fact that the debt to revenue ratio is the issue. Okay. So which means if we make more revenue, chances to be able to borrow money will be higher. And I don't think there's anybody in Nigeria today among the elite, whether they are in the academies or they are in the business community, that will say, oh, Nigerians don't need to borrow. Everybody agrees that we need to borrow more. But what we're saying is, what are we borrowing to do? Can we borrow to fund consumption, or we're borrowing to fund productive activities? That's where the argument actually lies. So whether you're an economist or if you are just analyst on current matters, you will agree that the deficits in terms of the infrastructure gap require that we have to borrow. But when you also look at your ability to be able to service those debts, then you have to think how you can constructively do your borrowing. Because, like I said, Augusto did an analysis some years back, and he said to us that for us to be able to meet the infrastructure gap in Nigeria, we would need to spend between 80 billion to 150 billion annually for a period of 30 years to be able to cover that gap. Now, if that is what it is, then which means your budget must necessarily be more than what currently it is. We say Nigerian budget this year is about 58 trillion. And if you convert that to dollar rate, it will be like about less than $40 billion. And you check out what South Africa is budgeting this year alone. Check out what India is budgeting this year alone. $1.3 trillion.
So we get there.
So we are still less than $100 billion. And yet we want to look like South Africa, we want to look like India, we want to look like UAE. So, but for you to have a first-rate infrastructure that makes you look like this developed country, then you must spend as much as they are spending. American defense budget alone is more than Nigerian 10 years budget. What America is setting aside for security alone, over $770 billion to secure their environment. And yet, the entire Nigerian budget is not up to $40 billion, and we are talking that, oh, we don't have security. And people are saying, oh, we should have security. So go and check out what Iran is spending on the security. Go and check out what Israel is spending on security. And compared to what we are spending on security, you see we are not scratching the surface at all. So we must be honest with ourselves and tell ourselves, what do we want? Is it development we actually want? Or we just want to be deceiving ourselves and go to the public space and make very grandiose statements that makes people happy. So these are the things that confronts us. Politics of deception. See, in Kenya, currently, their VAT rate is 15%. And they are increasing it to 20% in March. Nigerian VAT is 7.5%. And then you still have politicians who go to town to tell people and say they want to remove your money in bank accounts. Personal income tax in South Africa for the high end is 48%.
48%.
Yes. And we are talking about 25% tax here, and somebody is going to the street to go and misinform people. In Germany, it's 48%. Depending on the class that you are in the UK, personal income tax for some people is 40%. So we want government to build infrastructure. We want government to give us security. We want government to give us first-class schools. We want government to give us first-class hospital. We don't want to borrow. We don't want to take tax. So how are you going to do it? That must be a miracle, baby.
That must be definitely a miracle, baby. Let's move on to the next story. Now, banks operating in Nigeria recorded a combined $16.78 billion in capital inflows between January and September 2025, reflecting strong foreign investor participation in the financial sector. Now, the figure represents a 131.81% increase compared to the $7.236 billion recorded during the same period in 2024, largely driven by heightened activity in foreign portfolio investment. Now, the surge underscores renewed investor confidence and improved liquidity conditions within Nigeria's banking system. Now, the data contained in the capital importation report released by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, analysts say the sharp rise in inflows may be linked to currency reforms, attractive yields, stabilizing macroeconomic indicators. However, they note that sustaining momentum will depend on continued policy consistency, exchange rate stability, and broader economic reforms aimed at strengthening investor sentiment. Quite interesting, Doctor. What would you say? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, again, it's part of the government policy to see that we are ready. If you follow the conversation at the Chartered Institute of Bankers conference in 2023, when the administration just came in and the governor of CBN was in that meeting, the first question he asked them was the fact that the president promised that he wants to build a $1 trillion economy, and asked the banks whether they were ready. And he answered and said the answer is obvious no, because the banks are not ready for a $1 trillion economy. That if we actually want to build a $1 trillion economy, we must have banks that are financially liquid enough to be able to sustain that and support that kind of economy. And that is why you see when people are coming from Asia with their banknote, is because the bank there is so liquid and they give you a piece of paper, you come here and you can take loan at 10% and the rest of it and do business, and you can't compete with people who are coming from that side. So the bank here had no sufficient liquidity. So what the government has done was to say, look, if we must be able to support a $1 trillion economy, then there's a need for recapitalization. Definitely. And so the banks all went out for recapitalization. And we also must give thanks to what NGS has done in recent time to see that most of the banks have been posting very positive results. And of course, this become attractive for investors who are making so much of money. And if you look at it and see the kind of transformation that has happened within that sector, and it's really very huge, because almost all the banks are doing extremely very well, from the big four to the smaller ones, and the banks are actually making and paying dividends. And those payouts, of course, encourage a lot of people who bring in money. And of course, that's why you also see that foreign portfolio investment is increasing, foreign direct investment is increasing. And see the number of money that has come into that sector is really very huge. And incidentally, or unfortunately, it seems to be the sector that's actually the greatest driver in the NGS, because the manufacturing sector is not doing as well as the banking sector right now. And other sectors are not as competitive. So banks, of course, are the one cashing out at the moment. And of course, it has become a darling to all the investors, whether local or foreign. So if you have money, then of course you must follow where the market is. I was listening to SOUQ when he was making an analysis of the economic outlook for 2026, and said the future is in Asia and Africa. And so the prospect is in Africa. A lot of people who are in the West are looking for where to put their money, and the best place to put it is in the African market. And when you are looking at African market, we have the population. And therefore, there's also a propensity for us to grow this market. And because there's a whole lot that is untapped here. And all that people were looking at to see how stable and consistent the economy look like. But when you see what has happened in the last 12 or to 16 months, you see that the economy is looking stable. And people are now beginning to take a lot of confidence in what is happening. And as this economy gets more stable, then of course you see a lot of investment coming. And as investment coming, the associated effect will be that you will see that everybody is touched. Like somebody described, it's like when you throw a big stone inside a deep ocean. You may not see the stone, but the ripple effect, you will feel it close to the
If you look at these banks, getting loans from banks sometimes can be cumbersome, especially for the MSMEs. And a colleague of mine and I were talking, and he was like, banks are declaring lots of profits these days. I mean, Jim Ovia, we saw what he took home last year. But so a lot of people are asking, where are these profits coming from if people don't even have access to loans? So my question now is, can banks convert liquidity into real sector lending?
Well, the challenge, which is huge, and people must look at it from also that perspective. The reason why the rate of borrowing here is quite high is because the risk of lending is also very high. And when you go to see AMCOM and NDIC, you see that a lot of people, bad debts here and there that are taken. So the ability of people to pay back loan is also a big problem. And I think we must also not forget, because people don't also see that loans are supposed to be paid back. People take loan and they find a way to run away, which is, of course, why, of course, this app and the rest of it are sending SMS message to chase people who take loan and they don't want to pay back. That's a culture. Is a culture, and that's quite very, very sad for us, because a lot of people don't have integrity. And because there's no integrity, you can go to bank and take money for a business, and rather than do the business, you buy a very flashy car, you live in a very comfortable home, and then, of course, the business is not able to produce what will pay back the profit. And then some people abscond and run away. So these are the issues, and that's why you find the rates are there. The risk appetite for the banks is not as high as the crime rate, let me use that word, for a lot of people who want to borrow money and they don't want to pay back. So the ability to now be able to see how to put a lot of people into that group. I remember some years ago when I was trying to start a small business, we approached Bank of Industry. And at that time, what they were now advocating was the fact that when they give money to SMEs that they are not paying back, so they decided to pull them even into cooperatives, cooperatives such that 3 or 5 people in a market space, we say, okay, it's cooperative. But even at that, a lot of people were still very defaulting. So, and you see that happen, where people come together to want to do piggy vest or ajo, as we call it here, or susu, as they call it in the East. And then some people are defaulting and they are not willing to pay when it's their turn. And some of them take their money and they run into the tin and you can't find them. So a lot of people suffer this kind of loss, and banks are also suffering those kind of losses. That's why you see that investment in this direction is weak to MSMEs. So they prefer to lend to people where they can get money or invest it in things that can bring better returns.
So what's the way forward? Because to drive the economy, these banks solely need to also support the MSEs.
Yeah, we need to support the MSMEs. But you see, the credibility of the MSMEs are also very, very important. You see, because you have to reduce the risk of the loan. Imagine that you are insuring this loan and there's this heavy default. What happened? The insurance companies, they all will collapse and the entire system collapses. And this is why, for me, really, like I say it everywhere I go, righteousness is what exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. So if people take loan facility and understand that this is a borrowed loan, and they would need to use it judiciously so that the loan will be able to service itself, then you don't have problem. But when people take loan and they say, okay, you want to take money for farm, like people did with the Anchor Borrower Program. I think it was some few days ago, Serap had to go to court to say they want to know what happened to Anchor Borrower Program. All the people that are on the face of television today saying that they want to rescue Nigeria, some of them took that Anchor Borrower loan. And we don't see the rice that they told us they were going to produce. Honestly, if we were to name names, we'll see an ex-president and one captain in the in Benin took land to plant rice. That rice, we have not seen a cup of it. There's one socialite in Lagos here who also took a loan and said he was going to do rice. All we saw was a small cubicle he built along Benin Road. We didn't see the rice. But they took the money from Anchor Borrower program. And today, these are the people that are saying that they want to rescue Nigeria. So what you see is the fact that you see a lot of people who don't have integrity, that you're borrowing to say, okay, I want to take money to go and do farm. I want to do money to take industry. Rather than spend the money for the purpose for which you take it, then you divert it to something else. And then the risk becomes major. And you are not able to service or pay back the loan. And then the institution suffers. So it is the risk management side of this loan that is actually the problem in the MSMEs. Now, if people can have a plan or keep their books very well, the difficulty of bank giving loan to especially nano and small businesses will be higher. But most of these people, they don't keep books. So they can't separate profit from their capital. So it's just like a woman who is selling food. So you sell food, you put it in the same pot. So anytime you want to pay school fees, you still put it on in that pot. Whether it's the capital you are eating or the profit, you just use it to pay. So that financial literacy needs to be advanced hugely so that people are able to discriminate between capital and profit. That is not every money you sell in a day that is your profit. So that level of enlightenment is important. So people are able to keep records and books that I went to the market today, I sell 20 pieces of this item. And out of these 20 pieces of this item, this is the capital. This is my profit. So that if I want to spend, I can only spend part of my profit. So I can reinvest it into that profit. And if the capital itself was borrowed, which means it had a cost to it, then I'm going to use part of the profit to settle or service the capital that I borrowed. Now, once this literacy is in place, you will find it will be easier for banks to give money to MSMEs and then even at a lower rate.
All right, so let's move on to the next story for today. Trading on the Nigerian Exchange Limited surged on Monday as the benchmark all-share index, ASI, reached a historic high, driven by strong buying interest across the banking, industrial, and consumer goods stocks. Now, the ASI rose from 182,313.08 points on Friday to 190,262.44 points, gaining 7,949.36 points, or 4.36% in a single session. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, you know, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff? Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy, see something. This is SOUQ business landscape.
Hello, Lagos. Make we yarn.
Hello, boy, if this POS matter, don't pass your call. Person go swipe, alert no enter. Before you know it, jump.
Wait, wetin really happen?
Maybe you fake alert the warriors.
Okay, so Mona, listen, if you dey do POS business, no expose your alert.
Hello, Ogbefi. They don't walk that bar road where they worry for our local government for years.
This one sweet me, I no lie you. Because you know what, development with the work, it deserve loudspeaker. Now why we dey here be that? For here, we know the abuse, we dey bring solution. My name, it is Ikechukwu Uyemike. aka Ogwefi Ishegwari.
Make we yarn every weekday from 10 a.m. go to 12 o'clock on Top the Eye 95.9 FM.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty